My name is Kipling Sanders, and I'm going to be doing a perception speech. Thank you for being a part of this today. I was given up for adoption. I had to change schools a lot growing up. My adoptive parents got a divorce. I'm an alcoholic. I drank a lot of alcohol. I went to a lot of different schools growing up, and I changed jobs a lot, and I'm single and living alone. When I was young, I was chosen by my mom and dad. I went to a lot of different schools, but I learned something valuable at each one. My mother got divorced from my father, but she got remarried to the love of her life. I'm an alcoholic. I have not had a drink of alcohol in about 8.5 years. I've changed jobs a lot, and I've had the benefit of teaching tennis and playing tennis. I have my master's degree in aviation. Not only have I had dream jobs in the aviation industry, but I've also had the pleasure of sharing the love of the game of tennis with countless people as their coach. I'm single, but I know I will find my perfect partner someday. Perception. Perception is everything. Not only how others perceive you, but how you perceive yourself. I stand before you, I sit before you virtually as a proud man of color, born in South Korea, Seoul. As a professional tennis coach who's had his certifications, a man with his master's in aviation, but more importantly, a happy man with peace, balance, and direction today. So how did I get to this place of happiness and balance? I attribute it to a multifaceted upbringing. I was born in Seoul, Korea, 1977. I was passed from one woman to another twice, and then to a priest who prayed over me and delivered me to an orphanage. I don't remember much in the orphanage other than a dim-lit room. My first real visual memory was with Pan American's Boeing 747. My grandfather, Frank Beaudry, Irish, and Dorothy Beaudry. Frank Beaudry was a loyal engineer for Pan American for 40 years, so they got free flyer miles. His wife was a travel agent for 25 years, and they flew over to get me, and I had the chicken pox. And so I wasn't able to go, so they brought home another kid to America and adopted him to another family. I flew over later by myself to my scheduled family and ended up remembering a moment on the flight where a nice, beautiful silhouette of a woman handed me a warm baby bottle in a dim-lit room, cabin. No wonder why I fell in love with aviation. And the takeaway. As for my adoption, I look at it like I was a chosen child. Some children are not planned, not biologically wanted or planned necessarily. Some children, blah, 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 I already read that. They may find themselves in an adoption agency. But God gratefully directed me to a different path, a greater path. Imagine being chosen. Adoption is a beautiful gift. My parents were super busy. I had a nanny, Maria. She was my main caretaker. I had my mother was working over at the American Museum of Natural History up in the Central Park West in Manhattan, New York City, and she worked for the aviary department. She basically was able to take care of the birds, live birds, zebra finches, and I ended up going in there and going in to take care of the birds, and they would fall out of their nests sometimes, and I would put them back into the nest. A little bit of random acts of kindness. So basically, my mom was also a former actress on Broadway and also in rock and roll singer. My father, Richard, owned 3 restaurants in Manhattan. Chinese Chance was actually called Kipling's Last Resort, and then there was a fire, so they had to change the title of the restaurant. Came Chinese Chance. He also owned Tavern on the Green, and Bebop, and the Locale. The takeaway. Growing up in New York City, Growing up in New York City with hardworking, accomplished parents provided me the luxury of exposure to the arts and the entertainment. It was the kind of life that I did not know was a gift for a child. I got to meet the cast. My mom was friends with Snuffleupagus, who played on Sesame Street, and the man-eating plant in Little Shop of Horrors and Ellen Green. The same privilege continued over to my education. So basically, at preschool, I remember there was a monkey in a cage. And speaking of animals, I remember I was dressed up as a parrot. I remember I was so uncomfortable in my own skin in that photograph that I just couldn't think straight. I went to Grace Church School from 1st grade to 6th grade, and I still, with all those advantages of the time, I still felt uncomfortable in my own skin. Was it because I was being raised in a biracial family? With all these advantages at the time, internally, I knew that something was missing. I take that back. I felt the odd man out intuitively. Some interesting tidbits about skin. David Duchovny from X-Files, his mother was my 1st grade teacher. She told my mom that I have the smoothest skin she ever felt, and David is a year older than I. Another story that shaped my childhood was a field trip, a class trip in 4th grade. Pei. His name was Pei. He had a disability and he used a wheelchair. My class trip took a trip outside of the Big Apple. We went to an apple orchard. Everyone seemed to jump off the bus and take off and go climb trees and pick apples right off the bat. But neither my classmates nor my teachers seemed to handle the situation with Pei properly or well. So, I felt Pei's emotions empathically as an empath. I went back to the bus, I brought him to the rest of the class, and I picked apples for him and put him in his basket. In retrospect, I was different than the rest of the class. I looked different, and Pei was different. He was Chinese. The takeaway: I believe it was my first experience of empathy. My first real experience of knowing that I needed to set a good example for my teachers and classmates. Also, during this 4th grade year, there was my parents' divorce. My Italian father, Richard, got divorced from my Irish mother, Penelope, in Manhattan. I remember my father walking me into the front room, and he said, "Son, your mother and I," put his arm around me and said, "Son, your mother and I are getting a divorce." I remember I didn't know how to interpret it. I didn't know what to feel or what to think. All I know is that my parents were my life and my stability. Excuse me. The takeaway: after my parents divorced, my mom met a great man and remarried. In 5th grade, my mom, while doing research for a book in Africa, ended up taking me on a trip of a lifetime. We went to, education that year was not only in school, but it was in life. We went to Kenya, Rwanda, Zaire, Uganda, Tanzania, and the Congo, Africa. There I was exposed to many challenges and underprivileged situations where people were not privileged and the third world. I was exposed to cultures of survival in the wilderness. Basically, I went to a boarding school. I was so homesick and depressed and sad that I ended up running away. I got about 25 feet away, and then a faculty car opened up the door and asked me if I wanted to go back to campus. So that wasn't meant to be. I did an African report in 5th grade and turned in the assignment when we returned from the African trip. And then in 6th grade, at the end of the year, I got asked to leave the school. Basically, I was acting up in class, being a class clown, and my grades were a challenge. The takeaway: the trip with my mom left me with greater appreciation for the little things in life. It left me with greater appreciation for cultures of survival and global environments as well. Not only did I experience the third world countries, but I also experienced all their life challenges and everything. I saw beauty, culture, art, dedication, hard work, family, commitment. I experienced a lot of joy, had a lot of fun, and saw a ton of wild animals, such as zebra, lions, and elephants. So, in 7th and 8th grade, I went to a school, Berkeley Carroll School in Brooklyn. It was a private school. Nevertheless, my freshman year, my 7th grade year, I discovered I was a gifted athlete. I won most valuable player my first year in baseball. I should have won my second year, but they gave it to a more experienced kid at the school, even though I led the entire team in all the statistics. So, nevertheless, unfortunately, the person was at the school longer than I. I was asked to leave the school too after 8th grade because grades were still an issue and behavior in class was still an issue for me. The only public school that I went to was North Bergen High School in North Bergen, New Jersey, where I lived with my father. I got cut from the freshman basketball team. My friend Junior was appalled because he knew what kind of abilities I had, and I earned summer school. At summer school, the air conditioner was not working, so what did I do? I left. From there, I went to a private boarding school in South Kent, Connecticut. The private boarding school had dormitories. It was a lot of fun. Early on, with sports, I did amazing. I won multiple awards. I was class president. However, academically, it did not go as well. I did not study enough. I began to party. My family decided to send me to Wilderness Treatment Center in Kalispell, Montana. There, we hiked Mount Electric, 11,001 foot to the peak in Yellowstone National Park. I stayed sober for 30 days as well. I continued to stay sober at New Dominion High School. That's the next school that I went to in Cumberland, Maryland. Yep, I went to a lot of schools, centers, and programs. I had a positive attitude, but lacked focus, guidance, and direction, and discipline. Early on, I was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactive disorder and bipolar and chronic depression. I was scattered throughout the years, but I stuck with my education. But what's the big takeaway here? Looking back at it all, there was a lot of good. My athletic career began. I was varsity quarterback. I was JV quarterback. Basketball team, my freshman year, I averaged 17.6 points per game, 6th in the league in scoring. And baseball, I won MVP awards. In tennis, I played in Florida. I achieved the highest ranking of 35 in the open level in the Florida section, 35 in the state. And also, I played semi-pro baseball later in independent leagues in Miami, Florida. I was elected class president, and basically, freshman and sophomore year, when in Connecticut, we took a class trip back to Manhattan, to my house, and my mom hosted, and it was awesome. At New Dominion Reform School, it really was the beginning of learning from me, because it was coming from a outside person, a third party, not my parents. Not that what your parents don't have to say is important, you should always listen to your parents, but sometimes you can get another angle from listening to an outside individual. The power of focus. The lessons were how to behave, how to be respectful, how to listen better, how to be disciplined, how to have a better, stronger work ethic, and how to care for ourselves and others better. And then there was college. I went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, the most prestigious school in the world for aviation. I started off wonderfully, started off awesome in the beginning, but challenging academically. I played on the NAIA Top 25, basically Division II tennis team, and I was off the tennis team once I got on academic probation. After the freshman year, I ended up leaving the school, Embry-Riddle, and going up to New Jersey at Bergen County Community College. There, I had some odd jobs for a little while. I was a cook, I was cooking at various places, and then I continued my education at Everglades University in Lakewood Ranch, Florida, Sarasota. So I continued to go to night classes there, and then I went back to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, got some more credits, and then I just couldn't that program was very difficult and challenging, so I transferred back to Everglades, finally finished my bachelor's degree, and earned my bachelor's degree. 3 months later, I was hired at a commercial airport. But yep, prior to that, the pattern continued. Starting something, not finishing. Why? Workshop, write what you started and haven't finished yet. Something that you want to start, healthy hobbies. And if it's relating to speeches, relating to your speech, write something that you started and yet you haven't finished yet. It takes effort and focus to succeed. Why did this pattern continue? Second half. Why did this pattern continue? Ultimately, lack of awareness, lack of understanding, limited understanding in life, lack of focus, lack of self-confidence, trying to get acceptance from people. ADHD challenges didn't help either. Plus the pattern of partying, inclusive, didn't help. But there was a new element that manifested, and it got very slow and very insidious. So my behavior ended up getting out of hand in a very slow way, an insidious way, and I had the inability to control my moods and my anger. I took anger management classes, and now I have peace, balance, and serenity today. Getting back to the topic of the program, here we're talking about perception. An outsider looking in may have an overview or look at an overview and look at my jobs and career and think that I'm scattered. However, maybe I have been a bit in some ways, but I'm the type of person that likes multiple things. So, career number 1 in the aviation industry. I've had some dream jobs. I've worked at the Punta Gorda Airport, the commercial airport, Punta Gorda, Florida, airport code KPGD, and I worked in the landside, airside operations department as an agent. I basically ran the entire airport myself at times during the night. It was easy because it was a smaller, more manageable airport, so it wasn't that difficult. Also, I truly enjoyed my job. It wasn't even work at times. It was just like living the dream. And so basically I was hands-on something I loved. Hands-on something I loved. And so basically I was passionate about aviation, and I also got to meet the Thunderbirds. I also worked at Sarasota Bradenton International Airport, working with private jets, where I filled the fuel trucks up into the corporate jets, the business jets, the private jets, and basically taxied and marshaled out charter corporate business jets. I also worked with Service Air as a line ambassador and did some baggage handling early on. Also, I happen to be a tennis pro. So I've had the pleasure of sharing the love of the game with countless students as their coach. I've received the United States Professional Tennis Registry, the USPTR, when I was 19 in New York. I got certified, and then I moved to Florida. I scouted out areas in Winter Garden, Florida, where there were no tennis programs, and I began a tennis program. That opened up into another job, Princeton Elementary School in the northern end of the city of Orlando, and I taught at Princeton for a while. I also worked at San Lando Park, where I worked with beginner and intermediate players and some women's teams. I also worked at Maitland Tennis Center. After that, where I was really protéged by Todd Morrell, who was protéged by Nick Bollettieri. But after that, I really wanted to advance my level of coaching. So I went to Rick Macy Tennis Academy in Pompano Beach, Florida. I taught tennis there. After that, I wanted to get closer to home, so I moved to Bradenton. I started working at the IMG Tennis Academy. So basically, I had the full-time job, or part-time job, but I did not make the full-time coach. I was so disappointed. I almost became a full-time coach with nationally renowned Nick Bollettieri, but he ended up hiring someone else, other individuals. I was devastated. I wondered what I was meant to do in my life. I wondered what my purpose was. I wondered what my passions were. I still wanted to help people. I enjoyed helping people. I love helping people and watching people grow. So, I've written my children's book. My first book is good for all ages, in fact. It comes out in August 2021. My second book is a solution-based self-help book, good for people, for all ages also. It's a good read. It's a guide to resolving everyday human situations and errors. So the takeaway. I've had wonderful jobs in 3 various careers. I've had great bosses from whom I've learned a lot from. I've met fun, funny, interesting people along the way, all doing the 3 things that I love and bring me joy: peace, aviation, and tennis, and impacting people through my books and speaking engagements. So, the dark stuff. As I said before, I drank alcohol. I had anger issues. I was not in control of my own life or my own emotions or even thoughts for that matter. I was powerless over alcohol in my world. I recovered, I got sober. Wow. What's the takeaway from all of that? I changed my own destiny. I grew up. I matured. I took charge of my life. I am sober. I have not had a drink in about 8 1/2 years. I have peace today, I have balance today, and I have serenity today. And I know how to create that environment. So, what is the big takeaway from the overall program? This is an era like none other. Everyone could Google you, lurk you, do searches, and then they may draw conclusions, some of them accurate, some of them not so accurate. But in the midst of all of that, people can draw conclusions. Your parents, your classmates, your peers, your parents' friends. Excuse me. Well, basically, the perception they have on you can absolutely have an impact of your perception on you. So, what do? It's easy. You control the narrative. So you control what's out there digitally, person to person, in your behavior and actions, in your data, in your appearance, and how you handle situations or experiences in your day-to-day life. I've lived an exciting and provocative life. Some people may have come out of that situation in a negative state of mind, but I chose to accentuate the positive, stay focused on the positive no matter what. Make a positive difference in my own life and make positive differences in other people's lives, hopefully, like yourself. I've written a children's book about self-confidence and doing the right thing. I've been trained to be a speaker by an underdog who was once on ESPN, and now I seek to be a speaker myself, sharing my experience, my strength, and my hope. I don't want you, or you, or you, or you, or you to make the same mistakes that I made. If diagnosed with a chemical imbalance, take it seriously. Get help. Take necessary steps to get action or to learn to live with it easier, because you can and you can live freer. Find good, healthy, positive hobbies. Seek a degree or a trade or something you're passionate about and love. Do what it takes to earn an education so you can live financially freer, easier later in life. How you live will control the perception you have of yourself. So how others perceive you, so be wise. So one more time, again, each one of you, you control the narrative. You control what's out there. You control the path that take you. Remember, be kind to others, be kind to your friends, your family members, and also be kind to even strangers. Most importantly, be kind to yourself. Because you're worth it. You deserve to live happy, you deserve to live freer, and you deserve to live with serenity and balance in your life. Thank you all, Boys and Girls Club members, for allowing me to put on this event virtually. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And everyone have a great afternoon, great week, and have a great year. Good luck on all your goals. I hope you all achieve each and every goal. We have a speaker panel here, which would be myself in this case. And so basically, I was going to share with you guys some ideas of how you can benefit your speaking. I know you're going to do a speaking presentation to earn some grants and scholarships. I think that's wonderful. Good luck to all of you. I hope you all attain and achieve and earn those grants. My recommendation would be to have a foundation with your speech, to have an opening, a middle, and a closing. So you have to have, first of all, a hook. Whatever that hook is, you want to hook them in. And then that'll grab their interest. And then you can give sub-points, secondary, third, fourth points, and supporting your hook. And then conclusion, at the end, summarizing what you've talked about and how it may benefit people. Most importantly, people want to know, how is it going to benefit them? What could you do for them? That's what people want to know in a speech. How can they grow from what you have to say? So I hope that brings you some wise, enhances your brains with wise words of wisdom, and all of you go out and seek and achieve your goals and master your goals and attain achievements beyond your wildest imagination. Thank you, and good luck to you all.